I do want to begin this morning with Ukraine because Vladimir Putin has continued his push. And this is a very interesting is doing a lot of work there. But this is a very dangerous time in world history because Vladimir Putin considers himself to be a strong man. He considers himself to be a quote unquote great man, using that from the international relations definition, not any moral judgment saying that he's a good person. No, he considers himself to be a significant person in world history, such that he believes he has the right to change the world order. What does that mean? That means Vladimir Putin thinks that he could change the entire game. He believes that he has been called to change the global order in favor of what he believes in. Not so much what the people believe in. There's a lot of mistaken people who think that this is somehow a resurgence of the vanguard, the socialist vanguard or something. In fact, Vladimir Putin has asked for help from the People's Republic of China, a military support. So far, we don't have any confirmation that this is 100% factual. In fact, China and Russia both have denied the claim, but it makes sense because China here until this point has stood by and allowed Russia to make this aggressive move into Ukraine. And so we have to really be sober about what we're dealing with right now. We are dealing with a move on the international stage to change the world order. And the question is exactly what would that look like? Let's be clear. Vladimir Putin is making a play to expand the Russian empire. These are his words, right? He used the word empire. This is what he wants to do. So what does that look like? Well, in Russia right now, he's having to crack down on everything. Vladimir Putin is having to crack down. This coupled with the fact that companies like Instagram, McDonald's, and so many companies are now pulling out of Russia or suspending their operations. Instagram alone is suspending operations, causing nearly 80 million Russian citizens from being able to access their Instagram accounts. This is on top of all of the economic sanctions that are coming from the West. Russia is under siege right now, and it is only because of Vladimir Putin. I want to make sure people understand this. While the Russian people are suffering, they are suffering simply because of the ambitions of one man, one very small man, who thinks himself to be great, and that is Vladimir Putin. So the people of Russia are now suffering, but they're not suffering like the people of Ukraine are suffering right now. I mean, we're talking about the difference between first world problems, I can't access Instagram, and the realities of war. Vladimir Putin is still making his push to claim Ukraine as though he has some moral and internationally legally binding justification and claim to Ukraine. He does not. And it's a shame that we have to have this conversation in this country, but there's an entire faction of people here in the United States of America who are aligning with the aggressiveness, the barbarity of Vladimir Putin. And those people align very closely with the Republican Party. Let's be real. If there was a Venn diagram of the people who participated on January 6th and the amount of people who are supporting Vladimir Putin, I want to make a pause here and say something parenthetically. There was a time in this country, I'm old enough to remember a time when on issues of foreign policy, both parties would defer to whoever the sitting president was to enact our collective foreign policy. There was also a time when Congress would vote on an authorization to use military force. We haven't had that in quite some time, but I'm old enough to remember a time when both parties would align behind the president of the United States on matters of foreign policy. And the easiest of all tests was that of Russia. I mean, come on, do we not remember the McCarthy hearings? Right? America has had a standing position against Russia that is clearly now up for grabs.